All right, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on pricing strategies for MSMEs. Now, as business owners, I know you all know that pricing is a critical component within your business and it contributes a lot to your business success, your long-term sustainability growth, your competitiveness, and also your profitability. So it's very important that you know some of the factors to consider when pricing your products. Today we have with us Mr. Colin Coley from the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, and he will be our presenter for today, sharing with us some valuable insights and some strategic approaches that us as business owner can utilize within our business. Before we jump into the presentation, I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping matters. So we will start off with the presentation, then have a Q&A at the end. So if at any point during the presentation you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat, or you can just make a note of it. At the end, when we're at the Q&A, we will go through it. Also, please remember to keep your mics off. So with no further ado, Mr. Coley, I'm handing over to you.
All right, thank you very much for that introduction, and I really appreciated that. And Shanice, I'm going to ask if you can monitor the chat for me, please, and let me know what's happening.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. Okay, as Shanice says, I work at Jamaica Business Development Corporation, a business development officer, but I specialize in the financial matters. So anything to do with like finances, the cost and the pricing, record keeping, all that stuff, it falls under my portfolio. That was for quite some time. And I and apart from that, no, I like to I do presentation and teach people the basics. So today we're going to unpack a lot of things in terms of pricing of products, because I say it's important how you know about the costing and pricing of products. We're going to cover today costing, pricing, markups, margin, and break-even analysis. A whole lot we're going to cover today. All right. Uh, Janice earlier said that you can ask questions afterwards, but there are times along the way I will should ask questions and ask for feedback, because I like when I'm teaching, I don't like everybody that's quiet and sit down. I like when I get feedback. So I know you know what's happening out there. So yes, you can have a Q&A at the end, but if along the way, if I ask some questions, I expect to have some feedback from it. I want it to be a participatory session. So by the end, you'll have a good idea of what's happening. So we will jump into our session. I'm gonna make sure here. So costing. And the definition of costing here, the process of calculating what is required to produce a good or service. So of your definition, the process of calculating what is required to produce a good or service. The purpose of a costing system. One, to determine the true cost of a product or service. Two, to identify which product or service is making or losing money. Three, to find a break-even point. And four, to discover opportunities for cost improvement. So the four elements of our costing system: to determine the true cost, identify the product or service which is losing money. Say you have a business, you're manufacturing 3 or 4 5 different products, which are making money, which are not making money. Right? break-even point, we'll look at that later on, and the opportunities for cost improvement. All right. So the components of a costing system, one, you're going to have to make assumptions. We're going to look at that later on. Two, the time you spend in producing. Three, the process that you go through in producing. Four, the capacity. And five, the cost to produce. Your labor, very important, we touch that later on, and what kind of profit you plan to make from the product or service. So these are the components of a costing system. Now, costs are classified in two main areas, direct and indirect. So direct, expenses that go directly into the producing of the goods or the service. Like a direct labor, your materials, and your overheads. You call those direct costs. They go directly into the manufacture of the good or the service. And then there are indirect costs now, like general business expenses, like your rent, utilities, office expenses, advertising, things like those. So the items that go directly in producing the goods, you call those direct costs, like your raw material, the direct labor, those in. And then indirect costs now are like administrative and the overhead costs. And don't get too flustered here because as we go along, we'll go in detail in each of these. Then now there's fixed cost and there's variable cost. What are fixed costs? It's a cost that does not change with an increase or decrease in the amount of goods or service. So there are some costs, if we manufacture 10 items or 100 items, those costs not going to change, like the rent for the building. Things like fixed wages, advertising. Okay. Now, variable costs now are the costs that change with the amount that you manufacture, like raw material. So if you're baking bread, if you're going to bake 100 bread, it will take more flour and more sugar, whatever, than if you're baking 10 bread. So the cost that changes the amount that you manufacture is called your variable cost. You're baking 100 bread, it might take more labor time than if you're baking 10 bread. So we spoke about direct and indirect and fixed and variable. All right, so we're going on some worked examples now. Because in business, you're either selling a product or you're selling a service. All right. And we're going to look at how we're going past both of them. So we're going to keep up everybody out there today. So you're a tailor, dressmaker, you're a consultant, you're selling a service. You're a manufacturer of product, you're selling a product. So service costing is a type of operation costing which is used to in organizations create and deliver services instead of producing goods. So examples, creating a website, a car wash, mechanical service. You're selling a service. Steps in calculating service costing. Cost is calculated based on the labor hours rendered for each category of work done to accomplish each service. Okay, so assign a direct labor hourly rate, that's one. Calculate the labor costs per unit by multiplying the direct labor hourly rate by the time required to deliver the service. And three, total all costs and divide by the total units to arrive at a per unit cost. So let me go again. In calculating service costing, you have to look at the time you spend, your labor hours. All right. So this assign a direct labor hourly rate, period. $1,000 an hour, 2,000 an hour, whatever. To calculate the labor cost per unit by multiplying the direct labor hourly rate by the time required to deliver the service, and then total cost divided by the hourly rate give the cost per unit. So I'm going to look at a case study now. ABC Tutoring Service is a startup offering personalized tutoring service to students in various subjects of English, biology, mathematics, and chemistry. Here. The company aims to provide high quality tutoring sessions tailored to individual students' needs. To ensure profitability, ABC Tutoring Services needs to accurately determine its cost and set appropriate price for tutoring matched to each student. All right, so this is a private school does a tutoring service of various subjects, and they want to know how to price, how to cost a subject so they can know how to price it for sales. So operating expenses now, advertising and marketing, $1,800, admin salaries, $4,000, office supplies, $5,500, insurance, $2,200, and total operating expenses, $13,500. Now, ABC Tutoring Services employs 4 tutors specializing in one subject each. Tutors are expected to work 8 hours per week for 4 weeks at an hourly rate of $500. The rent for the center, $8,000. Software subscription, $1,000. Utilities, $11,000. So there, we changing. Remember, we spoke about direct and indirect labor earlier. So we look at direct labor. The direct labor here are the 4 tutors specializing in one subject. Right? That's direct labor. Direct overheads, the rent for the center, the software subscription, and utilities. Right? So these go directly into the cost of the item. Direct labor now, the tutor salary, one tutor at 8 hours for 4 weeks at $500 an hour, gives $16,000. That's direct labor. The direct overheads, the rent for the center, $8,000. The software subscription, $1,000. Utilities, $11,000. Total of $20,000. Direct overhead. So the cost now of the tutoring, define the screen is out of trouble. I've got a problem here. Soon come. Okay, good. All right. So the cost of a tutoring service now. Total direct cost is direct labor plus direct overheads. The $16,000 for the labor plus $20,000. This plus is 36 divided by the 8 students. So the cost to deliver one subject is $4,500. Now, I know Shanice said was waiting until the end to ask questions, but I'm going to ask if we can make an exception to that rule today, and we ask questions as we go along, because this is a lot to unpack, and you have to understand as you go along. At the end of it, you might forget what you want to ask or you don't understand something. So okay, stop right here and ask questions. Have I lost anybody along the way here that anybody did not understand in this costing of the subject right here? And don't be afraid to ask questions. Does everybody understand that? Are you sure? All right. So the cost to deliver the one subject is 4,500. Why?
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is what it costs us to per student, not what we will charge per student.
But it's a cost you to deliver the service. We don't reach pricing yet. Just
Okay,
costing.
okay. Just want to clarify.
So how we arrive at it, we separate direct from indirect costs. All right. So we say the direct cost, we're operating expenses, we have the marketing, administrative salaries, office supplies, and that. Okay. Then we spoke about, we divided into direct and indirect. So direct labor is a labor that goes directly to teachers who are delivering. That's direct labor. And the direct overheads now is like the subscription and the rent, etc. Then now the salary, we said one tutor, 8 hours, 4 weeks at $500 per hour, give me $16,000. That's direct labor.
I'm
Direct
calling
overhead,
for,
yes.
before you proceed, just a minute. So I have Mr. Rohan in the chat. He's asking if the $4,500 is per student for 4 weeks.
That is per student to deliver one subject. All right, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. All right. So the labor cost is $16,000. The overhead, the rent, the subscription, utilities, 20,000. So direct labor plus direct overhead, 16 plus 20 give me 36. 8 students. So to deliver the mathematics for the 4 weeks is $4,500. That's what it costs you to deliver the service. So yes, questions people, ask them now. Are you sure them okay?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Morning, everybody. You're hearing me?
Yes, man, I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So the cost for delivering this service for a month per student is $4,500
Yes.
per month.
For the 4 weeks, yes.
Yeah, for the 4 weeks. Okay. Thanks. Clarified.
All right, good. People ask questions. It get harder from here now. So ask questions, people. I have to make sure you understand. Got a lot of. I've been in this job for years. I see a lot of micro and small business people losing because they don't know the cost and price their subjects, their product or
A quick one
service.
here, Colin. A quick one. You have overheads, but I notice you're still describing it as direct cost rather than indirect. I mean, these overheads, the rent. So you're saying we wouldn't have rented if you're not doing the. So
See,
how and when do you separate it as an indirect cost rather than direct? Because I notice you loop these all as all direct costs. The rent,
right.
yeah.
All right, so direct overheads. All right. So, all right. And where we're going to later on, we're going to put a cost, we're going to more into this. All right. Sometimes some things vary. So here, you couldn't do anything without renting the center for teaching the students. So you might rent a classroom. You might rent a classroom out of a school. All right. So all you do in that classroom is teach, nothing else. So that cost goes directly into the service. You with me? All right.
Go ahead.
I know a lot of these tutoring services they're in classroom from plenty of these big schools in the evenings so they can teach. And all they do is in that classroom is teach. So in that case, nothing else happens in that classroom except teaching. So in that case, the rent will go into as a direct cost. with me?
And I'm with you. I'm just saying for accounting purposes, the thing it could end up as just an indirect
It can
because
be.
you'd have to pay for it even if the student doesn't come.
No,
You
but
pay for the
no.
space,
Mhm.
the utilities.
No, it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're getting into like fixed and variable cost now. So
Yes, that's
if
what I meant. Right. Fixed and
Mhm.
variable.
Right. That's a different kettle of fish now because a fixed cost and a variable cost can be part of your manufacturing depending on what happens. Right. So in this
Go
case
ahead,
now,
Colin. Let me not confuse the thing. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I want to make sure, no, I want to make sure you're all right. That's what I mean. 'Cause my job here is to make sure it's not to rush the thing. It's to make sure everybody all right. So
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
all right. Okay, all right. So we have to deliver the service. No, the cost to deliver the service is $4,500. That's cost. All right. Okay. That's service costing. Moving on to product costing now. If sure most people are with the problem. So in costing a product now, you will identify all costs associated with the production of the product to be offered. Some costs that you may include is wages for the employees, electricity cost to operate the stove, cost of ingredients, transportation, and cost of raw material. So in costing a product now, if you look at all these things. All right. Classify your costing systems into either direct, indirect, fixed, or variable. And then step 3, calculate the cost per unit of the product. Consider the following costs: direct raw material, direct labor, direct overhead, the total all costs and divide by the number of units. So step 1, identify all costs to the production of the product. Step 2, classify the costs into direct or indirect, fixed or variable. And step 3, you calculate the cost per unit of the product. All right, case study now. We're going to go into detail now. So Mr. Brown of Brown's Jewelry is a jewelry manufacturer who makes jewelry for small companies. He received an order from Bling Bling for 150 necklace. Mr. Brown's production expenses are outlined as follows. Raw material amount of $21,250 was purchased from Chance. Mr. Brown pays his 2 workers, June and June, $200 for each necklace. So operating expenses, advertisement, $1,000, telephone, $3,000, electricity, $5,000, rent, $20,000, transportation, $2,000, admin salary, $10,000, and water, $2,500. Footnote: he also takes a salary of $30,000 per month, of which 2/3 of his time is directly related to production. And I'm going to stop right here, people. You must pay yourself. Your labor has a value, right? A lot of the time I talk to small business people, well, Mr. Cole, the business can't pay me no money, but they don't get it yet. No, the fact that you put your time in the business, it has a value. I have to put a value to it when you're costing, all right? Your time has a value. Value your time. If a business can't even pay you at the time, value your time and put it in. That's important. Okay. So Mr. Brown's has a salary of $30,000 per month, of which 2/3 of his time is directly into production. 3/4 of the premises is used for production and 1/4 is used for admin duties. 50% of the water and electricity is used for production. All right. So the raw material now, ribbon, 2.5, plastic pearls, 10,000, thread, 6, fishing line, total 21,250, as I said earlier. That's raw material. Direct labor now. We said June and June get $150 per necklace. No, sorry, sorry. It's 150 necklace, but they are being paid $200 per necklace. And like a stick up in here, people, in production, it's best to pay your workers on a production base salary. That's why you get the most efficiency out of them. Back in the free zone days when there was garment manufacturing on Marcus Garvey Drive, I know a lady who her job was to stitch the collar onto the shirt. That's all she did for the day. And she was paid per collar stitched. No, if you pay me $10,000 a week, whether I stitch 10 color or 100 color, I stitch 10 color. But if you pay me per color stitch, I stitch till I hear a voice and stitch no more. So the best way to more efficient is to pay production base. Now, Mr. Brown's salary is $30,000, but 2/3 go to production. So Mr. Brown owns the business. He does production work, but he also does some admin work. He writes up the books, you own the business, also administrative work. So the $30,000 out of Mr. Brown's salary, 2/3 of it is spent in production and 1/3 is for admin. So direct labor here now is June and June at the $200 for 150 and 2/3 of the 30,000 for Mr. Brown. So direct labor here is $50,000. Let me stop right here. Questions? Dum, 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 dum. Everybody all right here?
One of the things that you said, Colin, you make
Mhm.
certain assumptions, correct? So one of the assumptions that you're making here
Mhm.
is this 30,000 that Brown pays himself per month.
Mhm.
You're drawing an equivalence to the 150 being the production. It takes a month to do the production. That's why you
Yeah.
you have to make that assumption as well, because
Yes.
if the 150 only took a week, then you would use the
Mhm.
30. You would use the equivalent of a week for
Yeah.
Brown.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah? All right.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. But to make it simple here with us, what do you
Yes,
think
I
here,
got
Miss
you. I got you. I
I'm trying
got
to
you.
get right.
Just making sure. Mhm.
Right. So total labor cost is 50,000. So June and June, all the money he pays them goes directly into labor. But Mr. Brown now, only part of his money goes into labor. So $50,000. All right. So direct overhead now, electricity, $5,000, but 50% is for production. Remember? So find half of the 5,000. Rent is at $20,000 for the property. But we said 3/4 of it is for production. Remember? So find 3/4 of the 20,000. Transportation, all that go to production. Water, half go to production. I will total up, I will get direct over $20,750. Question here. Any questions? And I keep hearing the same man all the time. I want to hear somebody else talk now. So make I start calling name now. So I sure don't understand so far. All right. So operating expenses now. Advertisement 1,000. Telephone 3,000. Admin salary 10,000. Which bright person can tell where the admin salary of $10,000 came from? Nobody can answer me here where that money came from. All right. Remember, Mr. Brown took $30,000 for his salary, and we said 2/3 of it is for production. Well, this is well, the other 1/3 now is for admin. That's at 10,000. So 2/3 of the 30,000 is 20,000, and the other third is 10,000. That's how we get that right here. Electricity, the 50% gone to production, the one gone to operating expenses. The rent of 20,000 We said 75% of it gone to production, then 25% gone to admin. Water, right? So operating expense is $22,750. Everybody say we got that here. Okay. So the cost to make a 150 necklace now. Direct material, 21,250. Direct labor, 50,000. Direct overheads, $20,750. So the total cost to make a 150 necklace is $92,000. Direct labor, direct material, direct overheads. Now, if it costs $92,000 to make a 150 necklace, how much it costs to make one? And this is GSAT maths now, people. No, sorry, PEP maths. Somebody will answer me, If it costs $92,000 to make a 150 necklace, how much it costs to make one? Hello, people.
$613,
$13.33.
How you got that?
And you divide the 92,000 by the 150.
All right, let me see if you're right. So total cost 92,000 of the necklace. Total cost of one necklace, $613.33. So you were absolutely correct. Yes. All right. Okay. Yes. All right. So do the costing of a service, how did the costing for a product? All right. So moving now from product now, from costing now to pricing. So pricing. Pricing is establishing an amount that the customer will be required to pay for the product or service. So price of the customer or the consumer is going to pay. Factors to focus on when setting price. Product cost. What profit margin you want. Competitors pricing. Price of substitute. And how much customers are willing to pay. These are things you need to look at when you're going to set prices. Some pricing method out there. There is cost plus pricing, calculating your costs and other markup. So cost plus is simple. It costs $10 and you mark it up 50% instead of $15. Competitive pricing, setting a price based on what the competition is charging. So if you're in a competitive marketplace, what are your competitors doing? You can't price yourself out of the market. And you have value-based pricing. You base your product or price on what customers believe it is worth. So like competitive pricing now, if you're in the gas station business, where every corner in Kingston you have a gas station, you can't price your things too high. Price them out of the market. All right. Ability of customers to pay. Let's say you operate in a school canteen. What's the average lunch money for a school child these days, a high school child? What's the average daily lunch money? Any parents out there? Hello? Anybody have an idea? I leave school a long time. What's the average lunch money these days for a child?
Maybe 1,000, a little more if they have to take the bus.
All right, so let's work with $1,000. You can, if you operate in a school canteen now, you can't want to sell Black Forest steak at $900 a slice. You price yourself out of the market. All right. So ability of competitive pay, value-based pricing, you set the price and based on the perceived value of the item. Right? Like a certain lady who sells sandals now. She has a premium product in the market. Women line up to pay $20,000 and $30,000 for her sandals. So that's value-based pricing. Okay. So when you go into price, you have a number of things you have to look at before you price. If you have a competitive marketplace, right, we live what's called a free market economy. But if you have a very competitive market, what competitors are doing. All right. Okay. So we're going to pricing now. So the service, let's start the service. The cost per student was $4,500. We mark it up 20%. And the price per student. So mark 20% of this, add it to that, I'll get $5,400. So 8 students at 5,400, give 40,200. We take out the cost price, 8,445, and then we'll get we call a gross profit of $7,200. Everybody see that? Right? Product now, $613.33 to say, right? We mark up 35% of this, give me this. This plus this, give me $827.99. Round off to $828. All right. So what now? And then 150 necklace times 828, give me 124.2. Take out the cost price, 150 times that, and a gross profit of $32,200. So the selling price for the service, that cost me $4,500. We're going to sell it for $5,400. And the selling price for the necklace, we're going to sell it for $828. That's selling price now. Let me stop right here and see if everybody have an understanding so far. Kamisha here? Winston Lawson?
I'm here.
Okay. Understand? Any question here?
Question,
Yes.
how you choose a percentage?
All right, good question. This goes back to pricing now. All right. I just use 20 and 35 here, just for example. When it comes to your business now, first of all, you need to know your cost. That's one. After you know your cost now, how do you go about pricing it? We'll look at a number of options for pricing. Is it a premium brand that you can price high? All right. Are you in a competitive marketplace? You have to watch what the competitors are doing. So if I go and sell bread, I think it's about $550 for bread. All right. I am free to go charge $1,000 at my shop. But if all the shops want me to sell for $500, $1,000, people gonna sell me teeth. So you have a number of things to look at when it comes to pricing, because the percentage markup has to do with the pricing, and the pricing has to do with a number of things. Ability of customers to pay, the market you are in, what pricing strategy you're doing. All right. You have various price strategies you have to look at. Right. You have price discrimination. A football match playing at stadium, grandstand costs more than bleachers. Same stadium, same football match. Are you flying on a plane? First class costs more than economy. That's price discrimination. So in your business, once you arrive at your cost, before you set your price, now you have to go out and look what's happening in the market that you are in. You with me? Hello?
I have a question. So what if
Yes.
after I've done my costing, the costing, it's equal to what the product is selling at, selling for in the market? How do you suggest that I go about doing the markup?
Hold on. When you do your cost come out at what people are selling for.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a problem now. You have to probably go back and look at your costing. Is it you can cut back on raw material, because if when you're going to sell your cost price what the companies are selling for. You have to go back to the drawing board and look within to see what if they're doing something, if you can change something, can you get the cheaper raw material, can you look at something how you can is it if you're importing the goods you can get a less amount, you have to go back and break down your costing to see where you can look within your cost to see if you can make any changes to it. Because it's that case where because you have to be careful now, because you know I'm going to business and lose. Right? Is that product you have?
No, that was
Amazing.
just a question. No, I'm with Jamie. That was just a question.
Oh, all right. But because I have
I
had
have a comment.
I have had clients who, when I finish their costing, the cost is too high. And if you look at your raw material cost, can you get cheaper raw material? Can they cut back labor cost? Can they cut back some form of overheads? You have to break down the costing now and see where in there you can cut back. Maybe something you're
Um,
doing wrong.
Mr. Coley,
Yes.
I know sometimes too we have to be careful too when we're looking at who we deem as our competitors, because sometimes their products are not properly priced. So
Mm-hmm.
I've had that challenge as a micro business
Mm-hmm.
where I'm looking at other micro businesses, for example, selling similar products. But the problem is that they don't price their product properly. And long and short of it is, couple years from then, you realize that product no longer exists because the company could not exist on that point, profit margin. So the company closes down. So I know, we have to be careful in terms of
Exactly.
who we deem as our competitor,
So don't
right?
frighten over next man because it's in price low. All right? And then go
Yes,
drop your price and put yourself out of business. But maybe he's doing something wrong. Or maybe he's operating a loss leader strategy. We'll look at that later, we'll get to break even. All right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, what's called a loss leader strategy, where you sell a product at a loss, but it's carrying other items that they're making a profit on. So you have to look at things like those.
Yeah, the honest truth is for maybe about 3 to 5 years, I've been underpricing my goods because of that. But then recent times I actually went through and did a similar exercise that you're doing here and priced the goods. Of course, when I saw the price, the selling price at the end, I was very curious as to whether I was going to lose customers. But then I went to an expo and, put those prices out, and it didn't make a difference. People were still coming, people were still buying. So a lot of times too, as business owners, we tend to be afraid to put out, what the the product actually worth, because we are worried that people won't buy it because it's too expensive.
And people pay for quality, believe it or not. If you have quality goods out there in the market, people will pay for quality. As I gave you the example of sandals, people pay for these things. So now all the time, we'll drop your price. Price is one of the worst things for you to compete on. Because when you get into a price war, I mean, sometimes nobody benefits. And you're not sure what the person is doing in terms of their pricing. They could price themselves out of the business. Maybe pay the bundle, the duty, and offer the things them. You have to be careful of things like these. All
Can
right.
I just add to this discourse though? Because on one hand, you're saying price a certain way, but shouldn't you also consider the type of products that you have? And likewise, the scale at which you sell, because you have to assess that. And to get to a certain margin, you also have to assess on your expense side, in the sense where are you procuring your raw material input at the best place. So we have to me, we have to balance the conversation, because you can't just tell someone that to price at a certain price point without saying, okay, but you're in the beverage market, which gives you a lower margin of a 10 to 15% on average, versus a sandals or something that is more luxurious that you're going to just buy one of this every 5 years or so. So shouldn't those things be considered as well?
Well, that's why I said earlier, you have a number of things to look at when it comes to pricing. Earlier, we said look at competitors' pricing, customer ability to pay, the type of product you're selling, the number. There's no one rule when it comes to pricing of products. I said it earlier. So you have to look at a number of things. Now, it depends on the market you're in as well. So you have to, whatever product you are selling or service you are selling, you have to know what you're doing, what the competitors are doing, what your customers are doing, what kind of market you're, what kind of strategy you're going to employ before you set your price. And then even if you set your price, you may have to make adjustments to it. So I'm not saying there's one rule for everybody. Because I went through earlier, we spoke about cost plus pricing, competitive pricing, value-based pricing. There are some of the different pricing strategies that we have out there. So you're correct when you say those things, but I said them earlier because pricing now is a very hostile game, especially in a free market economy like what we have here in Jamaica. And you have to be careful. That's why I do this first. Before you do any form of pricing, you need to know your cost first of all. That's the first thing you need to do. All right? Because some people deliberately say that I lost for a particular reason now. So once you know your cost now, before you set your price now, you do your homework. What's happening out there in the marketplace? Who am I competing with? Who are the customers I'm targeting? Right? I remember when I used to work at a certain supermarket chain, right? We had a branch in an uptown area, right? And right across the street was a market selling the farm produce at half what we just sell it for. And uptown people push them try and pick up the goods in our supermarket more than twice the price when I walk across the street. It all depends who you're catering to. Some people not going to the market, they rather go to the supermarket and pay the high price. It all depends on the type of customers you have. So there's a number of things you look at before you set price. There's no one size fit all or no one thing for everybody. So after you determine your cost, that's the first thing you have to determine, the true cost. Don't hide anything, don't drop out anything. After you determine that, then you go to sell. And what can you sell at? All right? Did I answer your question there? Okay. Any further question on that? We'll move forward. All right. So the case now,
Sorry, Christian.
yes.
What about factoring contingency, like a 1% or 2% after you arrive at your cost to account for probably shrinkage or theft or whatever. All right,
All right.
and also in manufacturing as well. Some persons use the pricing to get their pricing. They use they mark between 50 to 100%, so as to be able to get enough margins to cover their overheads.
All right. Again, let's go back to again now. Contingency, you can factor in. I go back to the supermarket I used to work. Anybody in the supermarket chain can tell you that shoplifting and pilferage is part of the business. No, you can't get all the shoplifters. So when you're pricing the goods to go on the shelf, you put in a percentage to factor for that. So sad to tell you, the decent person like you who not thieving, we pay for the thief what they can't catch. Two, you mentioned the markup to the cater, for example, farm produce. When you buy the farm produce, you have to strip off like, the leaf off the lettuce and discard them. Some of the tomatoes, but them sugar bears. When you're marking up, you factor that in so that you don't lose. So yes.
What about a product like eggs, which is a perishable?
Mhm. What about it?
So let's say your cost of production is $10,000. You put a 10% markup, so you're selling at $11,000. But the egg market is up and down. So there are times when there's a shortage and the demand is there, so you can get your price. And there are times when there's a glut and egg not selling, and persons would undersell just to move the product so they don't lose because they have to dump it. So if your market is selling at, let's say, the same 10, which is your cost, or 9,000 because they rather sell it and make back something than lose it totally. How do you maneuver in a market like that? When you factor in your cost, you put your price in, but you're in a position where you're more of a price taker from the consumer than to hold your price.
The marketplace, and I understand what you're talking about. And sad to say, there are times like those when sometimes you have to just cut your loss and run. Because rather have the egg sitting on you, sometimes you just take back, get back cost and just leave. Rather have the egg sitting at you and things. So there are times, sad to say, in business, when it's competitive and hostile, that market, when the demand is high, like when Christmas comes and things like those, you capitalize on it because the time when the market is in a glut, sometimes there's not much you can do, it's just cut your loss and just step back cost price sometimes.
Okay.
Because if there is a glut, and I've seen it happen sometimes, especially sometimes with farm produce, right? Sometimes when there's a glut, they have to just cut your loss and move. And instead of it's a good sitting on you and spoil. So
So you would say in some cases like those, you would even sell for less than your cost of production just to move the product.
rather than have me sit down there and not doing anything. And there are times in business that happen that when we get to break even, we'll look at that later on. There are times in business where rather than have the product sitting there piling up and not anything, you might have to just close the eye and just cut your loss and just move the product and get some cash flow in. Just to survive. Because it don't make sense to wait on if the market is not glut and the goods are perishable. What are you going to do? You have to sometimes just cut and run. All right. Any more questions here? We'll move on.
I'm not sure if you answered the question about a standard markup practice for manufacturing.
No, I'm saying there's no standard markup. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
Is there a rule at all?
In manufacturing, once you get, first of all, you need to know is your cost, your true cost, put in all your labor, everything, and arrive at your cost. After you arrive at your cost, then price, markup and price work hand in hand. How much markup, what type of goods you're selling, who you're competing with, what's your ability of the customers to pay. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you mark up 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. I can't sit here and I don't know what kind of goods you have. I don't know what your market is like. And I'm saying there's no standard markup in any business at all. Right? In the petroleum industry, like the gas stations, the average like maybe 10, 12% because it's very competitive. If you mark up your gas 20%, I'm going to say, well, I'm on a thief and drive past a gas station. So you need to know what I'm going to advise to after we finish is reach out to JBDC, and we have a department of people who handle things like these. So we can sit with you, break down your product costs item by item and see what you're doing and see where your price point and selling point is. That's the best advice I can give you right at this stage. But there's no average markup in a free market economy. It depends on a lot of things.
Just to interject, I think I agree with what he's saying, but I think what him also asking to is, or my suggestion for what he's asking is, for your industry or whatever product you have, you just have to do research to see what the driver is, or the KPI, or that set goal, and as best as you can lower your costs to make the margin depending on your market. You have to just maneuver that way. Okay, some markets might be 5%, some might be 10, some might be 15.
Wait.
Industry standard, but because of your cost of production is higher than John Brown, who have a more automated production, he can get a higher margin than you. So you have to look at maybe how you can lower your costs to
And
increase your margin.
he's getting his raw material at a cheaper price than you, because he's probably buying bulk or something. So, and that's why I said to you, gentlemen, afterwards now, I'm going to leave JBDC's information so people can reach out to JBDC. We have a department of people, staff to do things like these, to help you in things like these. You can come to your business place and sit down with you. All right, but when I get, and I'll get to that more. So, all right, we can move on now because time is of essence. So, solution here, we'll look at gross profit margin now, right? We talk about costing, pricing. Then we're going to markup, we're going to margin now. We'll talk about margin, talk about gross profit margin. And the margin basically is what percentage of the sales you have left to run your business and make a profit. That's what the gross profit margin. When you term margin, it means gross profit margin. And what percentage of your sales you have left to cover your expenses and make a net profit. Because you have gross profit and you have net profit. All right? So the formula for gross profit margin is your gross profit over your sales times 100, and in this case it's 26%. All right? This is saying after $124,000, 200 in sales, on the 26% that you have leave now to clear admin expenses and make a profit. The higher your markup, the higher your gross margin tend to be. The lower your markup, the lower your gross margins tend to be. And the margin now is very important, even more so than the price, because the margin is what determines how profitable your business tend to be. Right? The higher your margin, the more profitable it tend to be. The lower your margin, the more goods you have to move to cover your overheads. And I'm going to go back to the gas station example again. If your margin on gas is 10%, you see, and you sell $1 million worth of gas, what is 10% of 1 million? Which buyer person can tell me that figure? 10% of 1 million? Come, people, this is pet match, man. Come.
100,000.
100,000. Meaning, if you sell $1 million worth of gas at a 10% margin, you only have $100,000 leave out of that million to start paying your salary and your staff and everything and make a net profit. Understand? So if you're in the gas station, we need to move gallons upon gallons of gas for you to make a profit. All right? So margin is important. You need to know the margin for your business, especially if you're in the manufacturing business. All right? You need to know your product cost, your price, and your margin. You live and die by your margins. It's important. Your gross profit divided by your sales times 100, I give you a percentage. The higher the percentage, the more profitable business tend to be. The lower percentage is the more goods you have to move to see a profit. Now we're going to move to break even now. What do I mean by break even? Yeah, tell me. What's a break even?
You don't make a profit or a loss.
Okay. You either make a profit or a loss. So what you make?
But you put in.
You make zero. So break even is zero profit basically. All right? Your RMC make back your money. All right? It's a point where the business either makes a profit or incurs a loss. Now, what's the importance of break even? Sales volume planning, product decisions, profit margin assessment, cost control, and pricing strategy. So we're going to work out break even now. And it's important to know at what point you break even in business. God, if you know your break even point, you can know at what point you can make a profit or point you can make a loss. So in this case now, the selling price of one necklace is $828. Minus the cost price, which is $613, 33 cents. So your gross profit is $214.67. Now, the break even now is the operating cost is 22,750 divided by the gross profit margin, give 106 units. Now, this 22,750, anybody can remember where this came from? Remember the figure right here? The operating expenses is 22,750. All right. So we're saying the gross profit on one unit is $214.67, and you divide that by the operating expenses, and to break even, to make back your money, as you say, Mr. Brown going to sell 106 necklace to make back him money. Any questions there? Now, that 106 there, how we don't say it right? Who's make it up? You want to test it? All right, everybody see the screen? Hello, everybody see the screen? Can somebody answer me, please?
we're seeing, we're seeing
Okay.
your screen.
All right, all right. So we're going to test the break-even formula now. We said 106 necklace to break even. The selling price was $828. That's all. So 828 and 106, give me 87,678. The cost price was $613.33. All right. 613 times that, give me that. So minus costs from sales, and I get 22,750. And the operating cost now, we said, was 22,750. Now, when I take the operating cost, we must get zero. All right, $5.02, which is almost zero. So, see that I tell it. So this is saying for Mr. Brown to make back his money, he has to sell 106 necklace at $828. Order is for how much? How much was the order? Anybody remember? How much was the order? How many necklace?
150.
150. But this is saying now, 106 can make him make back his money. And anything after that now is where the profit going to come in. But I understand? All right, what happened here? Okay,
Oh, run that through again, please.
all right. So you want to go back to the break-even slide? I'm gonna stop sharing this. All right. Stop sharing this. Share. Okay, so we say break even. To find the break even, the formula, first of all, the selling price of one unit is $828. The cost price, 613.33. We'll minus this from this, and we'll get what's called a contribution or gross profit of $214.67 per necklace. Right? Operating costs now to run the business. After we take out direct costs and direct labor, what you have left is operating costs. It's 22,750. Let me show you where we got it from. See it here. It's 22,750. This is operating expenses, operating costs. All right. So now we have the formula is the operating expenses divided by the contribution per unit. So this divided by this give me 106. And this is saying that for Mr. Brown to break even on the order is 150. But for him to break even, you have to be selling 106 at 828 to break even. That's what we're saying. Now, we said break even is zero profit. You don't make a profit, you don't make a loss, you make zero. 106. So we're going to test the 106 now and see if this figure is really correct. Okay. Where am I? All right. Okay. So we said the selling price of one necklace is $828. 106 necklace at $828 give me 87,768. The cost price of one necklace is 613.33. 106 necklace at 613 is that. Well, minus cost from selling price and get what's called a gross profit, 22,755.02. And we say break even now is zero profit. So when we minus the operating cost now, we must get zero. And operating cost was 22,750, get almost zero, got the rounding off and all that stuff. So this is proof that that 106 necklace that Mr. Brown need to sell to cover him expense. And after that now, it's profit. So it's 150. So there are 44 necklaces where the profit will come from.
Okay, got it.
Understand? All right. Okay. All right. So it's important to know your break even in business. You need to know how much to cover your cost. So you can know how to maneuver. Okay. All right. Now, we talk about costing, pricing, markup, margin, and break even. So Mr. Brown now, we say going quote $828 on the order for a necklace. All right. Okay. So now you're going to quote 828 to bling bling. When you quote your price now, Mr. Bling Bling say, boy, I want to buy from you, you know. but I'm gonna quote me $780. What you do know? I'm gonna come broke your foot now. What you do know? As a businessman. Practical, it's a practical example, because it's happening in business all the time. You're out there in manufacturing. I'm gonna underquote you. So you quote your price at 828, a man says 780. What you do know? People come on, real life situation. This happen, and this happen to you in business all the time. Call some name.
Sorry, got distracted. You repeat it. I quote mine at what?
28.
Mm-hmm.
You quote bling bling. Bling bling say, boy, I want to buy from you now, but I'm gonna quote me 780. What you do know?
Well, to tell you the honest truth, my real life experiences that I usually do, I strategically tell them initially, say, I suggest you go and get it from that guy, but contemplate these things before you do. Make
You'd walk
sure
away
that,
from the order.
eh?
You'd walk away from the order. You'd walk away from the order.
No, because what happened is I start pushing the quality of my product and the risk that they take of getting something that is significantly cheaper. So I outline those things to them and then leave it to their for them to choose what they want to do. But I cannot allow other entities to dictate my price as such.
Okay. Latoya Hilton,
Also, sometimes they
what do you
bluff.
do? Sometimes it's bluffing.
But,
So Latoya
but
Hilton, what do you do?
again, don't we consider the scale or the volume of which this individual will push and to say, okay, this can give me a secure order ever so often, and you do an evaluation from there. And you
Of
take a
course.
margin cut on the most secure
Right.
customer, and again, you scale it from there.
And thought process going on here. Richard Harris, what would you do?
It all depends. I think the last contribution was good, but you need to look at exactly what kind of margins you will get from that reduced price, and then you can bargain from there so you can end up and you have a part where you don't want to go below your break even. But you can take break even because you get the volumes, and they might be able to push more volumes in the future that you can be able to you can get large orders, which means you can get better pricing for your goods. It's a complex answer, to be honest.
I
It's
know,
a
I
complex.
know. That's why I asked it. I'll play one more, Claire. Jeremy and Johnson, last person before I tell you what I would do. What would you do? All right, now coming from there. All right, can we match this order? All right. First of all, let me see something here. All right, let me see now. All right, so let me see. 780. Can we match it? And we said the cost price is how much? How much was the cost price? Anybody remember? All right. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right. So we're still making a gross profit. All right. Now the margin gone down. What was the margin before? Anybody remember? It was 26%. It was 26% before. All right. All right. And the operating costs was 750. All right. So at 780, the gross profit was 214 before. It is now 166. The margin was 26. There's now 21.37. And the break even was 106 before. It's now how much? 136. So based on this, I'll go ahead with the order, but you're making a less profit. All right, we're crunching numbers. Before you're making this, you're crunching numbers first. All right. So I will take it. Okay.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just that our mark when you're in, it depends on the market that you're in anyways, because
Yeah.
you have, for example, when we're in the service industry, we tend to realize that immediately matching another competitor's price reduces our value in the industry, and it sets us up for failure a lot of times. And then there are times when you actually can match or come down somewhat. So I guess it's a case by case study in which you can actually match or stay at your current pricing.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
It's also to what end? You know, are you going to be matching price for a one-time purchase? You know, is the person gonna come back and shop with you? Are they going to always want, you know, that price or that privilege they got the first time? You know, those are definitely things we have to consider. And sometimes we just have to stand our foot and, you know,
Yeah.
stand by the value of what we're selling them and not try to be the cheapest, because a lot that too also cheapens your business. I mean, my products, I consider them luxury or high value products. And if I keep on talking down the price, then my business going to look like the Chinaman shop down the road. And that's not the aim. So I mean, I guess in my case, you know, if I have, for example, somebody who wants to um distribute, and you know we put certain KPIs in place and certain commitments, and you know how we're going on a contract, a good contract in place, just to ensure that, you know, okay, for us to both benefit, if I need to drop my profit margin by 2%, 3%, 5%, whatever it is, once I crunch you know, it has to be worthwhile. You know, I would more look into people who are going to stay, you know, in some kind of partnership, you know, where long term I will recover. So that is usually my strategy. But not everybody who comes and say that man selling it for that, you know, I just say, all right, you know, for a one time, My goods are not necessarily food or perishables. You know, they do have some shelf life between 18 to 24 months, you know, just to ensure that, you know, over time they'll be sold. And of course, in the very worst case, you can have a sale or so if you need to clear before, you know, an expiration date or such.
Okay.
But for the
So there,
most part, I'll be keeping it constant.
right. There are no right or wrong answers to that question I just asked. I was playing devil's advocate when I do it. Because I used to do sales, and 9 out of 10 times when a man pull that stone, this bluff him and bluff, not long ago, which I bring down your price. But I was saying that once you know how to calculate cost, you can now maneuver within that space. And then you have decisions to make in the business. All right.
May I?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I agree with what the young lady said, and I also it brings me back to a time when when we were doing a chicken farm and we were made an offer to sell our chicken at a significant lower price than what we were selling it for. And I agree, the crunch in the numbers made the difference because when we did the calculation and the volume that that client wanted to take over a monthly period, not only did we have to redo how significantly redo the quantities of chickens that we produce, but it allowed us to increase in staffing and we actually started making more profit. Cash flow was more, profit was more, and we were able to pay better. And it was confusing but exciting at the same time when we looked at the numbers. And so, yes, the crunching the numbers did actually work.
Okay. All right. So the point I'm bringing over, all right, because I know the reality of business, because I'm not a desk person on behind desk. I have been out there in the real world of business. I've managed retail establishments. I've worked, so I know the reality. Your mic is open. I'm hearing your mic is open. Hello. Please close your mic. Right. I've been out there in social and cost of business. I know what it takes to run business. I know. So this
You
presentation,
can go ahead. I muted the person.
okay, good. So this presentation today is just to whet your appetite and give you a basic understanding. Now, if you're in the I just put my name and number in the chat, JBDC. We we work with people like yourself, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise. These are a large business can come. So we have a department of people who get the costing and pricing. We can sit with you and tailor something to your business. Okay? We gotta come to place of business necessary. You gotta come to us. We have online presentations and we can work with you on a product by product or service by service basis to work out your true cost. Because we can't cover everything in this presentation. And there are factors like a person mentioned contingency and all these things. And as I said, there's no one size fit all because depending on the market you're in. So we can't cover everything in this presentation. But when we sit with you to do a one-on-one, that's when we can cover these things and go in depth. All right. Consultation, like salvation, is free of charge. Like I said, that your taxes pay my salary. So you come to us, you don't spend $1, you get top class consultation for free. So make use of it. I put my name and number in the chat. Please reach out to me afterwards and we can sort out we here not just costing and pricing, but record keeping, budgeting, and I'm going to speak to Chinese about that. We can record keeping and budgeting course next, and we will work with you. So please, people out there, reach out to us and we can help because I'm tired of sitting my work with people and seeing plenty of business people losing on their product because they don't understand. All right. I can tell you a lady that's working recently, she's an eyelash technician. And I was surprised that women lay on their backs up to 3 hours getting eyelashes installed. But when I work it out, what she was charging for her services was basically giving it away. And I had to revamp her thing and move her up to market rate. Cause we'll be up to 13, $14,000 to get these things done. What she was charged was basically covering her cost. And I see it all the time with people like giving away their product and their service because they don't realize, because they don't know how to, especially they don't know how to put their labor in. Because your labor has a value. Oh, Mr. Kohler business never pay me yet. I said, really? Do you have another income beside this business? No. Where the supermarket your money come from? Where they pay the school fee come from? They take a salary, don't realize they're taking a salary. Or they don't know how to cost they put their labor and build the thing. They put in material, they put in time and don't understand what their labor cost is and they're losing. And it could be happening to plenty out there now. And there's no shame in it. So utilize the service that the government has to offer and come in to me and reach out to us and we can sit with you on a one-on-one basis and work with you. All right. I've covered a lot today. Are there any questions before we wrap up? My name and number is in it. My COG is in the chat. Any questions? All right. There's a lot to cover today, and you might not get it if you don't want to talk now. Call me one away, and we can move. So Shanice, you can take over now.
All right, thank you so much, Colin. This was a very informative and engaging session, and I do hope that our members were able to take away something from this and will use it to, within their business. So for what I will do also, I'll be circulating the recording for anyone who would like to go back and look at it. So thank you so much. And remember, pricing your product correctly, it makes a significant difference within your business. All right. So have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much again, Colleen.
Okay. And remember, my number's in the chat, so please free to utilize it.
You're right.
Mhm.